I hope that the audio is okay on the videos. I didn't check. I have to check if the audio is okay. I hope, because it's a new computer, I hope it picks up all right. Okay, first things first. You have to make sure these formulas make it to your study sheet. This is on page 15. Especially with that little note down here, when it's a use private or use dealer. Okay? If it's a private sale, remember this. The question must, they don't have a choice. They have to give you the book value of that car. Okay? If it's a private sale, the question must tell you about a book value of some sort so you can compare it. It's the greater of those two values that is going to make it into this formula. Okay? So it's the purchase price for sure, so whatever you agree to pay for it, and then the greater of the two, whether the price you're agreeing to pay for it or the book value that comes from MPI. Right? Why is that? Why do you think they have that? Well, I could sell you a car for $1. On the paper, I could say, I'm selling you the car for $1, and then give you $3,000 later on, right? But on that paper, it shows like I sold it to you for $1. You're only gonna have to pay 7 cents on taxes, right? So AutoPack doesn't want that. So that's why they have a book value. So you can't undersell on the paper and then get away with paying next to no taxes, right? That's why that is there on a private sale. When it comes to the dealer, the dealers are into the business of making money, right? Like they want to sell as high as possible, so there is no book value issue with that scenario, okay? Let's keep going. So page 16, we already dealt with one where it was a dealership, so watch my formula. I used the use dealer formula because I was told it's from a dealership. Let's continue here, example 2. Maybe I should mention one more thing, okay? You're with me here? Before I start, I am going to be honest with you and just say that when it's used dealer, this part right here is usually not, it doesn't show up. Because the safety, the dealer will have already done the safety. Any parts and labor necessary to make sure you pass safety is already going to be included in the price that they are selling. Okay, so all of these things are usually a non-issue. And the lien, guess what? A dealer is going to make sure they don't have a lien on that car because they want to make sure they don't get dinged. All right, they have a reputation to uphold. So most of the time, these things are not going to be part. So technically, 99% of the time, your used dealer turns out to just be that little part at the beginning. But just so you know, if it does show up, you are prepared. You know how to deal with it. Okay. Okay. Next, Joel finds a Jeep Wrangler for $24,900. That's important. It's a private seller, and it's the seller saying, "I'm selling it as is." So basically, you know, they're not going to do anything to it. You buy it as is from them. Okay? There's a book value for $32,000. So this car that you're planning on buying has a book value of $32,000. So hint, hint, right? There's a $65 safety inspection that needs to be paid and a $30 lien search. Okay? Calculate the total cost of purchasing the vehicle after tax. So we're already going to take care of that with the formula. So this is a used private. The formula calls for purchase plus purchase / book. Make sure you write this down at least for your notes, okay? Times 0.07 plus safety times 1.05, okay, because we're going to take our safety and slap the 5% on it. Oof, this is going to be tight here, parts and labor times 1.12. That's always me. I'm so ambitious and then I run out of space. Anyways, plus lien. Okay, so that would be the whole formula on your study sheet. I don't need you to do this on a quiz test AC. I don't need you to write out the whole thing. But for today, that's what we're going to be doing. So let's plug in what we know. The purchase price is $24,900. So you put that down. Plus, okay, brackets. Which one of these two is the greater number, the purchase or the book? Just look at them. It's the book value, correct? It's the book value. So you go 32,000 times 0.07. Mr. Dirksen, why aren't you going times 1.07? Why aren't you doing that? Because then you would be saying it's 32,000 and 7% on top of that 32,000, so you'd be paying a whack load of money. So this part right here is just figuring out how much PST you'd be paying for this car that you're buying. This is doing the PST part. So I'm actually going to label this PST, okay? That's what you're doing there. Plus, safety. Is there a safety? It could be that it doesn't mention one. But it does mention one, $65. So we're going to go 65 times 1.05, brackets. Plus, are there any parts and labor? No, right? So actually, I'm going to, in my notes, I'm going to get rid of that portion. Like, I don't need to worry about it because it doesn't mention it. And then there's a lien search for $30. That I will add just like that. It doesn't get taxed. Do you remember that? Do you remember what a lien is? It's a virtual chain to your car. That's what it is. Like you can't, sure you can drive around, you can even go to the US and back, but you cannot sell it because it still belongs to the bank. Okay? So here we go. I'm going to clean this up. I know our temptation is to, I'm just going to type it all in and just get one big number. Don't do it, okay? Resist that temptation. Clean it up first. So you grab your calculator, you figure out 32,000 times 0.07. That's 2240. So 2,240 exactly. Plus, that's why the brackets are there. Do whatever's inside the brackets first. The safety is 6825. And the $30 is there. So now you've cleaned it up pretty nice. We're just going to go ahead and add it. So I already have this number on my calculator. I'm going to go plus 30, right? Plus this 30, plus 2240, plus 24,900. And there it is. Please, when you add these to your study sheet, make sure you copy it correctly. Some students forget a plus. And this actually happens just as you're getting ready for your exam. Some of you make a clean version of this and you might rush a little bit and you forget the plus. So students go 24,900 times this big number here. So that now we're looking at millions, right? So if you get something like that, you're like, wait a minute, this cannot be. Cannot be true. So what do you think? Another very common mistake, and I don't want you to be falling trapped to that, is they go back, they read after tax, and they're like, oh yeah, times 1.12, because you're so drilled. This is already after tax. After tax, okay? You already, all the taxes that apply have been included in this number. So don't be multiplying it by 1.12 again, because now you're double taxing yourself, okay? Question: when would you pay this PST, like, and who would you give that money to? Who collects the 2,240? You think it's the other person that you're buying it from? No, don't give it to them. You pay this when you go to Autopack to register your car. They will collect it from you. So use your credit card, use cash, whatever you have. But this goes straight to Autopack, right? They give it to the government, okay? Just making sure you're not like, here's your money, and then they take off with it, right? All right, next. Ready? How much did Joel pay in taxes? So taxes only. Okay? And here's where I'm going to give you my version of this. Tax only, there are various ways of doing this, but I'm going to say book / purchase times 0.07 plus safety times, watch this, 0.05. So none of them will have a 1 in front of them. Plus parts and labor times 0.12. These are the only three things that have taxes associated with them from that big ugly formula up here. So I took this part, I took the safety, and I took the parts and labor. They all have some sort of taxes attached to them. But what did I change here, folks? I made it as 0, and I made it as 0 as well, because you just want the taxes. Okay? So you would go 32,000 times 0.07 plus the safety 65 times 0.05, and there's no parts and labor. So I'll just cross this off for now. And we can borrow our previous answers. We already know 32,000 times 0.07. It's 2240. Plus, you can probably even do the math on this one. How much taxes were added to the 65 bucks? You went from 65 to 68.25? 325, right? Yeah. So you either multiply this in your calculator or you just go 325. You add it up, it's 2,243.25 taxes. Okay. That's what you paid in taxes. Let me just bring this up a bit. Sure, if you need to add this to your study sheet. How common is this question? It has happened on the exam. So a lot of students just went ahead and figured out this number here. The good news is they still gave you 2 out of 3. It was a 3-mark question. Technically they were looking for this, but a lot of students did this part because they was like, oh, this is my formula, I'm just going to go with it, right? And you're still adding taxes, you're still doing the right thing, it's just you're not answering exactly the way they want it. So if you have room, sure. I want you to understand the formulas. That's, for me, the most important. But this should be under used private, right? Or used, I should say. This, if you tax only, this is for used vehicles. Okay. All right. I'm going to give you some hints here. Is the book value always going to be the greater one? No. So don't be saying, oh, the book value always goes in here. No, it's the greatest of the two. But you only pay whatever you agree to purchase it for. Okay? Is there anything else I need to warn you about? Let me see here. I'm going to ask you to do one before I continue. Can you try Can you try example 4 here? Just this one right here. This is on page 18. You know what? That one has parts and labor. I don't know if you're ready for that. I'm just going to risk it. And you can use my formulas. You have everything you need to do this. So I'm just going to ask you to try question 4. Big deal if you don't get it 100%. I will go over it. So just try example 4, and then I will go over it in a bit. I won't give you all the time in the world, so maybe 5 minutes, 5, 8, and then I'll take it back, okay? I just want you to get a break from my... All right. Maybe you're not quite done yet. I will go ahead and solve this anyways. Gord is buying a used car. There you go. You're in the used car territory, and it's private. Use private, all right? For $16,500, that's what you agreed to pay for it. There's some diagnostics. That's like a check done on your car. It needs some work to be done. It's $50 an hour for 3.5 hours. 4 new shocks at $82 each. There's a safety being done. There's a lien search for $25. And the book value, here it is, the book value is $14,000. How much is paid for the car in total after tax? So because there's parts and labor, I will do that on the side here, okay? Used, private, including parts and labor. Maybe if you have a little subheading there when you go through your notes, you're like, okay, this one has parts and labor as well. So I'll just go, the diagnostic is $90. You don't need to write it out like this. The engine is $650. You have $50 per hour at 3.5. So labor, you just go 3.5 times 50. And 4 shocks, right? Shocks, 4 times 82. And that's it, right, for now? So you just go, this is 90, this is 650. 3.5 times 50 is 175. 4 times 82 is 328. So then we have a little subtotal here. So when you add up all the parts and all the labor, you end up with 1243, correct? 1243 is that subtotal for parts and labor. So I'm going to kind of chunk this here, try to be organized. Doesn't matter where you did it as long as you have it, okay? So I'm going to use my formula, not writing it out completely anymore. But I know that I have to start with this $16,500. That's what I agreed to pay for it. What goes in here? Which one is greater? The $16,500. So guess what? That's what goes in here again. So the $14,000 never makes it into our calculations here. It's just there to make sure you understand and you read carefully. Do I have safety first on your formula? I think so. And parts and labor, 1243 times 1.12 plus the $20 for the lien search. Okay. So here we go. Let's clean this up. 16,500 times 0.07, that's 1155. 60 times 1.05, that's $63. 1243 times 1.12, that's $1392.16. And the $20 is still with us there. And here we go. I'm just going to start adding that plus the 20 plus the 63 plus 1155 plus 16,500. So we're just adding it all up. And we get 19,130 and 16 cents. If you didn't get it, write down the correct answer right next to it, and when you have a chance, you make the corrections, or at least circle what went wrong. Okay? I did on my notes, I have taxes only here. I think I'm going to leave that for now. We're just going to leave it like this. Okay. Okay, so let's go to 17. What's the time here? Okay, we're doing okay. We're doing okay. Because I do want to talk about the pros and cons. So maybe I'll do that first before I get you some more work time. Sometimes I bounce back and forth. I do a few, you do a few, right? Just so you don't fall asleep on me, like my screen will in a bit. So I'll just move the mouse there. So page 19, buying a used car. Some pros or advantages. Buying used car from a dealer, so if you buy from a dealer, there's lower potential for hidden damage, right? Just write down a few things here. A dealer wants to keep a good reputation. So if it ever says explain, right? They are most likely not to buy you a car with issues because they want you to refer someone else to them. Okay. There's less paperwork. The dealer takes care of most paperwork, right? You can trade in your vehicle, okay? Most dealers will accept your car as a trade-in. You can do that privately as well, but most likely not, because they're wanting to get rid of their car so they can get another car or pay for the car they purchased. A dealership offers extended warranty. Okay. A dealer usually offers a warranty for a fee. It gives you some peace of mind because you know it's used, so it's not cheap. Like it could be a couple $1,000s, but they're like, hey, if you pay $3,000 for the next 5 years, you won't have to worry about any major repairs. Engine goes, anything big goes, we'll take care of it, right? So that's the nice thing about a dealer. Private cannot do that for you. There's less, so some of the cons for buying from a dealer, there are higher taxes. You always pay 12%, no matter what. Will cost more overall. Dealers need to make a profit, so they raise the value, right? They can't afford to have a loss on their sales. Oftentimes their cars are someone else's trade-in. They're trying to now sell it, right? So they need to make a certain amount or else they'll lose. Whereas if it's just your own car, you just sell it for whatever you can get and you're usually happy with it, right? So there's also less room to negotiate. I'm just going to leave that as is. Buying a used car privately, you pay less taxes, right? Only pay PST. Make sure you understand, right? PST is the 7%. If you forget, it's on your formula sheet. More room to negotiate. I'm just going to leave that there. Oh, wait. a private seller does not necessarily have a bottom line. Right? You can make offers, just don't be too rude when you make offers. Don't lowball. Yeah, most ads are like only serious offers will be considered, lowballers will be ignored, right? Like I see that a lot of times on the ad. So be reasonable. Okay, cons, hidden damage, right? The previous owner may not disclose previous damages or repairs. Damages, that says, I know it's hard to read. Previous damages or repairs, more hassle on your part. Okay. You're responsible for all paperwork when registering. And registering it. Now, this is only comparing a private sale versus going through a dealer. It could be, listen carefully, that the province compares buying a new versus a used. Right? Then you want to be using, I'll just point you to it. Apparently, I did this on the video. Apparently, this page 7 is already filled in for you. So that's what you would draw from pros and cons of buying a new vehicle versus a used one, right? So this is the most common one that I've seen, this section right here on page 7, okay? All right. I think I need to give you one more example before I send you off to work, okay? So come with me to page 3, and then you'll be able to spend some time doing your homework in class. How sweet is that? How sweet is that? And then tomorrow we'll have a little AC on this, okay? 17, go to 17. No worries, you can drop it from a plane and it won't break. Your phone. Was that a phone? It sounded like a phone. There you go. Patty is buying a car from a private owner. Private, right? We know it's used because it's a private sale. For $9,500. In order to pass safety, the certificate of inspection that is, it needs 2 new headlights at $60 each, 4 new brakes at $150 each, a new fuel pump for $190 each, or I guess just 1 pump. The labor to do the repair is takes 2 hours at $65 per hour. There's a safety check for $40. The book value of the car is $10,000. I'm going to use a different highlighter for that one. Book value is $10,000. That's always like just a side note, right? We may or may not need it for our calculations. This is where my booklet is very outdated, okay? I just can't keep up with the times. So how many of you know what an hourly rate is for a shop if you repair your car? Ballpark. Anybody know? I went to Canadian Tire on Monday, and it's $125 an hour. That's their shop rate. That's their hourly rate. So this is outdated, okay? Another thing, the safety check changes all the time as well. So that's why just I put different numbers down just so you're not getting too used to the one number, okay? And so just keep that in mind as you're working through these. It needs to be changed again, okay? The total cost of parts and labor before taxes. So it's just wanting parts and labor before taxes, no problem. So parts and labor, we're just doing that part. So I'm showing you this a little differently. 2 new headlights at $60 each. I'm going to put brackets around that. Plus, we're also purchasing 4 brakes at $150 each. I don't know why I put a decimal there. There you go. And a fuel pump for $190. Okay, so this is parts, 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 and here comes the labor. We have 2 hours at $65 an hour. So that would be taking care of my parts and labor. I'm going to clean it up a bit more. 2 times 60 is 120. 4 times 150 is 600. We've got our 190. And 2 times 65 is 130. We add that all up. So that's 720 here, plus 190, plus 130. So that's 1,040 that we're paying. And notice that it says before tax, correct? Did you catch the before tax? So we're not going to add taxes to this. We never multiplied it by 1.12, okay? B, so this one breaks it down quite a bit. The total cost to purchase the car after tax. So we're going to do that. What is this? We're in used private territory, so that's the formula that I'm going to use here. I'm going to use the purchase price, which is $9,500, plus, you know what? I'm going to do this. Say what? Which one of these would you cross off? The lower. Yeah. So you cross that off. So you're just left with 10,000. Is that going to mess? Is that going to throw you off? If that throws you off, just put in the 10,000 in there. Okay? This is the greatest. Greater number is this one right here. Plus safety. That's what the formula calls for, is $40 times 1.05. Next, it calls for parts and labor. I already done that work before. So, this one here. Plus, is there a lien search? Oh, okay, so I can just ignore that. There's no lien search. Not smart, right? You should. 10,000 times 0.07, mental math, $700, right? But again, if you're not sure, just use your tools, right? Calculator. Anybody go get a calculator yesterday? I checked and the Leela store was out. But Walmart also has these ones. So there we go. We're almost there. So we do everything inside the brackets, and there's a plus in between every bracket. And here we go. I'm just going to take this, plus 42, plus 700, plus 9,500. Never did we add the 10,000, the book value, in here at all. What's wrong with that? You can't have just 0.8. You have to then add a 0, okay? If you don't want that rounding error on your test. And last but not least, total taxes paid after all repairs have been done. I'll just show you the shortcut. This is how I do it. Because I already did the work up here, it's going to be the 700 plus how much taxes did we add to the safety. Super easy here. But in case you forgot, we're just going to go 40 times 0.05 plus the parts and labor times 0.12. And Mr. Dirksen, why did you do the 700? Like, why didn't you? Because, to be honest, when it's a private sale, this number here, which is the 700, that's always going to be the tax part that you're paying. Okay, so I don't want to redo this whole thing. There you go. 700. 40 times 0.05, if you do the math, it's 2. 1,040 times 0.12 is 124.8. You can leave it like that because it's not the final answer, all right? So it doesn't hurt yet. So here it is, 826.80 taxes, okay? Up here, you can go ahead and say this is after tax. And I always want you to remember this. So let's say something happens to your study sheet. You always have your formula sheet there to help you. So if you go to the back, I might block this for a bit, but right? Taxes on vehicle purchases. If it's a brand new one, you pay both taxes. If it's a used at a dealership, it's yes and yes, so 12%. If it's privately, yes, calculated on the greater of the book or the purchase price, right? That's what we're always doing with that extra bracket. But you don't pay GST, so you only pay the 7%. And safety, you don't pay PST, which is the 7, but you do pay GST, which is the 5%. We already know that. The formula tells us that. Materials and labor, you pay both taxes, 12%. Lien search, no and no, so it's 0, right? So this always summarizes everything we're doing with the formulas. Okay? Okay. We're going to go, if you go to page 20, all of those are dealing with used vehicles. And usually I have like a longer worksheet, right, that goes with it. So this goes to 22, page 22. So I will just say page 20 to 22. You can probably get 20 done today, for sure. Like if you're somewhat dedicated. But as long as you work, I don't have any other expectations there.